What's up, folks? Back with another reaction, back with some more punk rock. I wanted to start this video by giving a shout out to the people who've been watching the punk rock reactions. Obviously Ryan and Jimmy going back a couple months now. Recently Ron and some other people. Mark, Lloydie, shout out to all of you. Really appreciate your comments. And again, you know, sometimes when I do the punk rock reactions, I worry that even more than in some other reactions, even more than my Depeche Mode reactions where I tend to be very verbose, I do tend to talk a lot about themes and sort of setting up the concepts at play before I get into the song. And I've been a bit self-conscious about lately. There's been a few videos where I've been talking like 7, 8, even 9 minutes before starting the video. But I wanted to give a shout out to the people who've, commented and sort of insisted, like, please, just keep doing what you're doing. Like, don't worry about that too much, whatever. It does mean a lot because I get sort of self-conscious about those kind of things. And so hearing that, like, you know what, it's not the worst thing to have you talk about the concepts in the lyrics for a few minutes before. So it really does make me feel better about it. So shout out to all of you. Even so, I wanted to do a punk rock reaction, which is sort of the diametric opposite of that, which is to say this is an instrumental punk rock tune, and not only is it an instrumental punk rock tune, but it's one that's basically a cover of a classical piece. That is to say, we're going to listen to some more Naked Aggression. I've reacted to a few tunes by them. They were a band from Wisconsin originally, and then they came out to California, I believe Northern California. Put out a number of albums. Unfortunately, one of the main members, I think he was the bassist, Phil Suchomel. No, he was the guitarist. Phil Suchomel, he passed away, and he was the husband of lead singer Kirsten Patches. And after a couple years after the Naked Aggression sort of disbanded because one of their members passed away, they came back as Meet the Virus, some of the remaining members, including Kirsten Patches, the lead singer. I did a reaction to, I think, at least one of the Meet the Virus tunes. So yeah, check that out if you're interested. But this is an album from Naked Aggression. I think it's their first proper album. I need to look that up now because now I'm sort of second-guessing myself. But the point is, this song is a cover of a song or a piece called Asturias, Leyenda, originally by a Spanish composer and pianist Isaac Albéniz. And yeah, basically it was originally for piano, so like translated into a guitar idiom, it's not like a precise cover. You have to, the piano's range is bigger than that of a guitar, so it's not exactly as it sounds in the original. Though they're not the first group to cover it with a guitar. Okay, so this is the first like proper album. They had put out a cassette tape 2 years before this in 1991 that was just self-titled. But this is their first like proper studio album on like an actual record label. So this is 1993. But yeah, so the tune, even though it's called Asturias, it's not actually indicative of the music of that part of Spain. It's actually more like Andalusian music. And in the flamenco tradition. So yeah, basically it's a piece. It was originally composed. Does it say it here? Interesting. The name Asturias Leyenda was actually given to it posthumously by a German publisher, Hofmeister, and they included it as part of Albéniz's Suite Española, but Albéniz never intended the piece to be used that way. So there's sort of an interesting history behind the original work. But yeah, this is basically Naked Aggression doing an instrumental cover of a classical piece, originally for piano, but as I said, they're not the first group that has taken this and put it into a guitar idiom. So yeah, this is, without any further ado, Naked Aggression, Asturias Leyenda, Suite Español, Opus 47, although as we just heard, Albéniz never intended it to be part of that suite. It was only a German publisher who later just decided, like, yep, this was definitely part of this other work that he did, don't worry about it. You probably heard this, right? Like, not this version maybe, but it's a pretty like famous piece. I like the bass and guitar talking back and forth with that. I can't decide if I like it better played by the bass or the guitar. Very silly. It reminds me of that scene in Amadeus when after playing that epic piece on harpsichord to the point where like cardinals are walking over wondering what they're hearing, Wolfgang gets to the end of the piece and does this very silly brum, 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 and does his trademark laugh. But yeah, that end of it felt a bit cheeky and sort of silly, kind of in that same vein. But yeah, it's a cool piece. Like I said, the first time I heard this album, I was like, wait a minute, like I know this piece, like that's a famous piece, right? And so then, you know, I sort of looked into it. Although, admittedly, when I first got this, it was like, I didn't get it in 93, I probably got it like 96, 97, something like that, but it was basically pre-internet days. I know technically the internet was already around then, but it wasn't like used in the way it is today. So it took me a little while to kind of figure out, like, wait, who is this by? Like, you know, I've heard that somewhere. Because, again, I grew up listening to a lot of classical music. My dad it remains a big classical music fan, and, you know, there were like dozens, hundreds of classical CDs around when I was a kid. So once I kind of caught an ear for it myself, I think my dad had some CDs by like Spanish composers, like you know, Rodrigo, and like Spanish like guitar music. And I think somewhere I heard a guitar cover of this. Again, not this cover, because by the time I heard this, it was like, wait a minute, I know this piece, I know this tune. And yeah, it's kind of a cool thing. I don't know too many punk bands that have done anything like that. You know, I know some punk bands that have done instrumentals. Obviously, ska bands are famous. They, you know, almost always have at least one or two instrumentals on every one of their albums. But yeah, you don't often see a classical music cover in a sort of like snarling guitar punk rock style. It was very cool. So let me know what you think of that. Let me know if you are familiar with the original piece. Other than that, thank you for listening and watching. I'll see you next time.